Hey everyone, before we get started on this episode, we want to take a moment to extend a huge thank you to all of you who have helped us surpass our kickoff goal of support during Lent. As you may remember, we had a Lent supporter drive with a goal of $1,000, and you all blew that out of the water. We could not be more grateful for all of you who gave financial support for the work of This Whole Life podcast. We are looking forward to expanding our video capabilities and reaching new audiences.
Now, our new goal isn't about any specific dollar amount. It's about building a community of ongoing monthly support. And your monthly gift, even $5 that you probably won't even miss month to month, will go a long way to the ongoing costs that are associated with this podcast and creating a resource for daily mental and spiritual health. So please, if you would, go to ko-fi.com/thiswholelife. That's ko-fi.com/thiswholelife, or click the link in the episode description.
And now on to the episode.
It's just so precious, like, to have these moments of, to be able to play and be on a team and compete. And especially when you can do it for your school, like you wear a uniform with your school's name on it, you know, you're representing something bigger than yourself, the good that sports can be. We're missing it in a lot of places because we're worried about getting the college scholarship. Yeah, and right. That's a shame.
Welcome to This Whole Life, a podcast for all of us seeking sanity and sanctity, and a place to find joy and meaning through the integration of faith and mental health. I'm Pat Millay, a Catholic speaker, musician, and leader, and I'm happy to bring you this podcast along with my bride, Kenna, a licensed marriage and family therapist. This is the stuff she and I talk about all the time, doing dishes, in the car, on a date. We're excited to bring you this podcast for educational purposes. It's not therapy or a substitute for mental health care. So come on in, have a seat at our dining room table, and join the conversation with us. We are so glad you're here.
Listen to me now. I'm not gonna stand here with my friends down and out.
Welcome back to This Whole Life, friends. It's a blessing to be with you today. It's a blessing to be in this room with these people. And boy, if you're listening now, you wish you were here.
It's going to be a great hour.
You get to hear it, which is the next best thing. But man, if you were only here, you'd be better off, which is one of the reasons that we're going to very soon expand our video capabilities so that you can see what's going on here.
Yes.
How are you, my love?
I am good. The sun is shining through this window, and we have an awesome guest here today in Matt Birk. So life is good.
Big day. That's right. Big day. Before we get rolling, just a few kind of reminders and encouragements. First of all, if you have not been in the habit of rating and reviewing This Whole Life, very much encourage you to do that on whatever podcast player you choose to listen on. It helps us. It helps the podcast get better exposure. So take the 8 seconds, if you would, and hit that old 5-star button. And if you think it's a 1-star podcast, I encourage you to not rate it. That would be really wonderful.
But we encourage honesty here.
That's correct. We encourage honesty, but we also
5-star honesty.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Second of all, we have now moved past Easter 2025, and we now are working toward building up a community of monthly supporters for This Whole Life. So you can click the link in the episode description or go to ko-fi.com/thiswholelife to support all the good work that we do. And thank you in advance. We've got a great guest with us, friends. We have Matt Birk with us. Matt, welcome aboard, brother.
Thank you. It is so good to be here with you guys.
Glad to be
I was
here.
like fans of your guys before you became podcasting stars. This is great.
Yeah, man. Well, great. But thanks for being here in studio with us. Matt Birk, for those who don't know, he is a CEO. He's a 15-year NFL veteran. He's a Super Bowl champion. He played football at Harvard and graduated with a degree in economics, and then went on to be drafted by the Minnesota Vikings in 1998. He played for the Vikings here in Minnesota for 11 years, and then for the Baltimore Ravens for 4 years, where he won a Super Bowl in 2013. He was named the 2011 Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year for his accomplishments on and especially off the field. And then since retiring on top in 2013, He's been a vocal pro-life advocate. He's co-founded a Catholic high school and authored a book called All Pro Wisdom. He's been married to Adriana for 23 years, and they have 8 kids. Matt,
Holy
welcome aboard.
buckets, man.
That's mostly accurate.
That's
Thank
quite
you.
a resume.
You can coast from here, man.
I don't feel like I'm coasting. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that's not how it feels.
It hasn't slowed down since the playing days.
Not so much.
Yeah, I bet. Oh my gosh. Well, thanks so much for being here, Matt. We always like to start off our episodes with a high and a hard, checking in about what's been going on lately. So would you mind kicking us off as our guest?
I'd love to. High this week, Easter was kind of a disaster.
Okay.
We had sick kids and all change of plans last minute. Family's mad. It wasn't great, So Monday night, my wife just kind of last second said, we got to go out. We try to do date night once a week. And we went to a really terrible restaurant on a Monday night, which doesn't sound like a great recipe for a great date night, but it is because Monday night's not busy at restaurants anyways.
Yeah.
At bad restaurants, there's nobody there. We walked in, she said, "Did you reserve the whole place for us?" And we sat in a restaurant by ourselves, and we got an hour to just
great.
talk and kind of, take a breath and relax and put the Easter, all the Easter stuff behind us. So that was great. That was the high. And the hard is we have a daughter who's going through a tough time right now, and it should be a joyous, exciting time for her, but she's very stressed, and as a parent, it's always hard to see your kids struggle, and I tell her, trust me, everything's going to be okay, but she doesn't believe me because I'm her dad, and so it's just hard to watch her go through that.
Yeah. That's tough. That's tough, man. Prayers for her, and
Thank you.
Yeah, teenagers, young adults, man. We're knocking on that door as parents, and it's been so easy for us so far, which means I know that the shoe is about to drop. So, bracing for that day. But man, oh man, yeah. Did you tell Adriana that you did rent out the whole restaurant, by the way? Just to
Of
make
course
it really
I did.
Just to
romantic?
take credit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
I said,
babe.
you know me. You know I'm a romantic. Yeah, right.
What a gesture. That's great. Kenna, what about you?
Yeah. I think, this is I'm going to say a season in life, but maybe this is just life when you have children and children who are in activities and you work and all that. But I recognize that this week I've been in that utilitarian mode of I look at my children as how useful can you be in getting this task done versus you are a person here for me to love and just enjoy. And so the hard is recognizing that I'm in that place and pumping the brakes and challenging myself to shift. And also the to-do list just keeps growing. And thanks be to God, there's a lot of really exciting stuff going on in our work life and our family life. But I'm full to the gills with the stuff. And it makes me look at people around me, not as people, but as mechanisms and cogs in a wheel. And that is not good. That is not what we were made for. So I got to work on that. So that's the hard. The high is, Matt, how old's your youngest child?
8.
Okay. So we're a little behind you. Our youngest, we have twins that are just turned 6 this week, and then one that just turned 5 last week as well. And they're learning how to read. And there's a lot of firsts that you celebrate as a parent, first time they walk, first time they say their words or do things independently. And these being our youngest children to date, to see them read for the first time and to look over and see now, particularly the 6-year-olds, just, enraptured with a pile of books. It's oh my gosh, it touches on your own magic of this whole world that's been unlocked for you. So that has been a definite high, and just encouraging that. And they want to spell everything. They just all day long sit at the island mommy, spell pickle, mommy, spell garden, mommy, spell they're just so into it, and it's really pure, and it's beautiful. So yeah. How about you, love?
Yeah, thank you for that. I agree with both of those things. Those were not my high and hard, but I'm really glad to hear that we have kind of similar perspectives. My hard lately, today, was a really challenging before school routine. And Matt, getting 7 kids out the door on time is a hilarious method in futility. No, that's not the word. It's a hilarious exercise and futility. That's the word. And just like, I do not love mornings anyway. I'm not a morning guy. I am at my absolute worst when the most is required of me. So this morning, just like shouting at kids, I like turn around and both the boys, God bless them, or two of the boys, they're boys. This is the way the male brain works. They're just playing a game with a ball in the living room, and we are all screaming
like
at
Rome
each other.
is burning.
Correct, right. And I turned around and was just like, "Are you kidding me?" So I get sarcastic and I get shouty, and it's not good for anybody. So it was a hard morning, and we're gonna reconcile this evening. It's gonna get better, and I am at my best at like 8 o'clock at night. So we're gonna be in good shape tonight. My high is we sacrifice a lot to try to keep our kids as far away from technology as possible to a reasonable degree. Like, we'll watch family movies. They watch Bluey once in a while. That's all well and good. But none of them have phones. They don't have iPads, whatever, stuff like that. And it's a genuine sacrifice. Like, it's hard to always try to find productive, functional ways for kids to be entertained and busy, whatever. But the payoff is that our kids love being outside. Almost every one of them. And especially now that it's warmer outside and they're able to, like, we have to fight to get them inside, which is
That's awesome.
such a gift. Yeah, it's great. It makes all the arguments and all the kind of stress about technology worth it when they see the benefit and they just love playing sports and riding bikes and doing all that stuff. So it's pretty great.
Yeah.
Pretty great.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Well, speaking of playing outside, speaking of sports, we're going to talk sports, Matthew.
Sports.
Sports. Yep. Kenna's here for moral support.
No, I have my questions.
No,
Pat
Kenna's
was
actually.
like,
yeah.
Pat was like, I think I'll lead this interview, and I was like, excuse me. I was like, I have some things I would like to talk about. So, ladies,
Right.
don't you tune out. Do not.
Do not in the least. That's right. All right. So here's the deal. Where I want to start before we get into some of the much more important stuff about the mental, spiritual side of sports, especially parents and navigating youth sports and that whole culture nowadays.
Yeah.
I just want to geek out about football for a second to get into that world. Okay. So here are some various questions. You tell me your thoughts and we'll go from there. Most fun individual game that you ever played in?
It was the playoffs. I was with the Vikings, and it was 2000 and hold on. It would have been January of 2006. I had a tough year. I'd dealing with all these hernias. I kept herniating myself. I don't know if that's even a thing.
Sure,
I had surgery. It was hurting. It was a long, tough year. We snuck into the playoffs at 8-8, and first round of playoffs, we got to go to Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
That year, we lost twice to Green Bay. Both games 34-31 on a last-second field goal.
Come on.
And so, yeah, we're this 8-8 team. We're not even supposed to be in the playoffs. And we went up there and we whooped them. It was great. It was one of those games where Favre just decided to throw the ball to us a bunch of times.
Beautiful.
And there's 8 minutes left in the game. We got the ball. We were up a bunch. And that's the time when everybody knows you're just going to try to run the football and run the clock out.
Yeah.
And normally what happens is you run 3 plays, you get like 1 yard, and you punt because there's like 3 more guys than you can block on defense.
Yeah.
Well, they could not stop us. And I was telling their middle linebacker, Nick Barnett, not one of my finer moments. I was saying, Nick, we are running the ball right here and you can't stop it. I might have been a little more colorful.
Sure, right. Paraphrasing.
Paraphrasing.
Thanks for keeping it family friendly.
And it was 8 minutes, and we came off the field. They finally stopped us with about 30 seconds left in the game. And nobody except the offensive linemen and our coach knew how like unbelievably impressive that was.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying anybody else should be impressed because I get it that you don't care.
Yeah.
But it was unbelievable. And we were that year our thing was we would call it belly bumping. You know, we would instead of high-fiving, we would belly bump each other, O-linemen, because we had big bellies. And we were belly bumping our O-line coach. And it was just kind of it was one of those great moments in a personally and team-wise, a tough year. It didn't go how we thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
And the next week we went to Philadelphia and got waxed, and we were done. But that was a great game, and that was a great place to do it in Lambeau Field.
Yeah. That's such a great example of like, for a Super Bowl winner, one of the more fun games that comes to mind is just a moment like that.
Yeah,
like a game-killing drive at the end of the fourth quarter in the winter at Lambeau.
Yeah, in a divisional playoff game, which nobody cares about.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's good. That's so good. Oh my gosh. Number 2, Can you bring to mind one of the best blocks that you ever laid?
Oh yeah. Well, there was 3 or 4 of them. No.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, 300 or 400.
Over
yeah,
15 years. Yeah, I had like 3. There was one, it was my first year playing, and we were playing the Cardinals at home in the old Metrodome, and there was a screen pass, and I ran out there, and when you're 315 pounds and you're in space, it's not real comfortable. You're kind of like, you're like the fish out of water.
Yeah.
And I'm coming up on this little DB, and you're like, well, why don't you just run him over? Well, because he's just going to like sidestep me, like
Sure.
the cartoons where the bullfighter just. So I went to, you just kind of, we say, shoot your shot.
Yeah.
I just shot my shot, and I went to cut him through his legs.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was asleep or he had something in his eye, but I caught him just right. And it was kind of one of those where he like flipped over backwards.
Oh, man.
And we scored a touchdown, and I was like, and this was 25 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like football is a big deal, but there's no social media. There's no YouTube. I was like, well, that felt like a pretty good block.
Yeah.
And we went out after the game, and it was like it was one of the highlight plays on, ESPN.
Yeah, right.
Where the only
right.
highlights you had was like the 3 minutes that ESPN would show. They were like, that's the only place you could get your highlights. And,
Right.
And they actually highlighted me, and as a young player, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. You said first year.
My first year starting. So it was my third year in the NFL.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, everybody's going to know who I am now.
I made it.
Of course, nobody cares about linemen. That's fine. But that one was good. I remember it. It was 25 years ago. So
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
great. You were ahead of your time, because now, as we speak on ESPN, there's a show called Get Up, and Jeff Saturday, former center for the Colts, has a whole segment on Get Up about linemen laying just sick pancake blocks.
I know Jeff well. I mean, we played this exact same era. Centers have a special bond because there's only so many guys in this world that know what it's like to have another guy put his hands underneath you every day.
With your permission, even.
Willingly. So, I text Jeff once in a while, and I'm jealous. He took this center thing, and he took it to another level. That could have been me.
It's amazing. Oh my gosh, that's the best. Final, just goofy question. Most intimidating defender that you ever had to go up against?
Ooh.
That's easy. That's John Randall.
Oh.
And I was his teammate for 4 years.
I was going to say at practice. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, here I am, rookie from Harvard, which people are like, Harvard has a football team? I'm like, yeah, we got uniforms and everything. It's great.
We play Princeton every year.
Yeah, we beat them. And I show up, and it's like, I got John Randall, who I admired. I was a huge Vikings fan. I'm like, John Randall's the baddest man on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh wait, I got to try to block him now. John was crazy. He still is crazy.
Yeah.
His mentality, his motor. That's why John is a Hall of Fame football player, because he just I never once. I mean this. People say these things like, oh, he never took a play off. Like you couldn't in practice. He would just not. Even if you blocked him, he would just keep working until which I said, if you blocked him once out of 100 times,
Sure,
he would just keep throwing moves and doing that until he was by you. Like he's just crazy. So I hated it. I hated my first 2 years in the NFL because I'd go to work every day and try to block him in practice, and I could never do it. Hated it. Wouldn't have chosen it, but looking back, it was the best thing for me in my football development, because once I could kind of start to sort of block John, I was like, maybe I can do this. Actually, because not everybody's John Randall.
Yeah, then like Joe Blow for the Chargers is not such a threat anymore.
Yeah, I'm not scared of you. Okay, I see John Randall every day.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, that's amazing. That's great. So then there's a little more significant then. So in terms of getting into the realm of like sports and like the mental side of sports, things like that, is there a time in your career, whatever, NFL, college, even back to high school, that you felt totally like crushed, demoralized, I can't do this, discouraged? Like, was there a point where the mental side of the game was a real challenge for you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, high school. So I didn't start playing football until I was in the 10th grade. You talk about your kids playing outside, when I grew up, when you guys grew up, it's all you could do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so sports was a huge part of my childhood, just from the standpoint, like that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have two brothers. We grew up in a neighborhood full of kids. We'd play kick the can, stickball, football in the street, whatever, and I love sports, but I wasn't any good at them, which didn't matter back then because you just played, right? And I played everything except football. And then I got to high school. I actually transferred high schools after my freshman year, and I went to Cretin, Durham Hall. Mm-hmm. They got some good sports teams there, and
I've
heard things.
I had a bunch of buddies there, like, "Hey, come out for football," And I was a kind of a short, fat, slow, weak, not good looking kid. That might be too much information?
I'm having a hard time believing this, but okay.
Right.
And but now it's kind of starting to get taller and a little bit bigger and kind of hit puberty, I guess. And they're like, "Hey, you should go out for football." Practice starts in August. You meet some more guys, and I did, and that's where I just kind of discovered like two of the gifts that God gave me, which was getting in people's way and grabbing onto them. Yeah, which is good for an offensive lineman. Yeah. Like those aren't gifts you'd think you'd want, but and I didn't know I had them until then. So I was just kind of naturally good at it, and I loved being good at something. I loved lifting weights. I loved eating food. It was the camaraderie of the football team, and let's go to Godfather's Pizza on Sundays. It's all you can eat buffet, right? Like, this is what we're supposed to do. We're high school football players. Let's eat till we throw up. Like, I just loved like everything about it, and I was kind of good at it, right? Yeah. And so played and then high school and just played, just like I'm good, and didn't have aspirations to play college football. Didn't think I'd play college football, but I did. I mean, I got recruited by, Ivy League schools. So it was like, well, shoot, I'll go there, and I showed up there and I was just kind of thinking, I'm just going to show up and just kind of make it happen here. Well, I was, away from home for the first time, playing against 22-year-old men. I was 18. Yeah. There's a difference. Yep. Uh-huh. And oh, by the way, too, going to class with a bunch of people who are just like, brilliant.
Rocket science.
So it was like, it was really the first time in my life where I just experienced like a ton of failure, and I'm away from home, right? Like I thought, I can't wait to leave home. I'm done with this place, right? I mean, I was so homesick. So I don't know how long this podcast is. It might be 5 hours.
Yep, great. Sounds good. In your face, Joe Rogan.
So when I came home for Christmas break, so I didn't come home for Thanksgiving. We didn't have any money, and so I come home for Christmas, and I'd went to college with 2 duffel bags, and I came home from Christmas with 2 duffel bags. And I was like, I'm not going back. All my buddies were at University of St. Thomas, in Cretin, we call it 13th grade.
Yeah, right.
Because half our class goes there, and I'm like, I'm just going to go there. I'm going to play football there, be with my buddies. They look like they're having fun. And I remember finally, like towards the end of break, I sat my parents down, and I was like, here's the plan. I'm not going to go back. And my dad, you don't know my dad, but he kind of sat there and listened, and he just said, "Oh, you're going back." And that was the end of the conversation. Yeah. I was like, okay. And Larry, he wrote me a letter, and which back then, you actually send letters once in a while. And it said, hey, I was like, I get it. You're going through a tough time, but you're 18, you're playing football, you're at a great school, you got your whole life in front of you. When I was 18, I got a one-way ticket to Vietnam. And he's like, I was told I was going there, and it just really like kind of put things in perspective. Like, whoa, because I was done. Like I was done, like with everything. Like I said, I was going to leave. And just having, that perspective, it was like, I need to like maybe be a little more grateful and just be a little bit tougher, So again, tough time, but great time, because then it just sort of gave me that, perspective and reassurance, like, it's going to be okay. And then you just, thankfully stuck with it and worked through it. Right. And then you realize, geez, sometimes things take time. Sometimes you just got to work a little bit harder. This is the process. But that was probably the toughest time for me, just all those factors at once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I'm thinking too about, what you opened with, Matt, of seeing your daughter go through something difficult right now and walking with her and just knowing that you have that perspective too, that experience, behind you. And I'm wondering, as you think about maybe that second semester of freshman year, what else, beyond just dad giving you maybe a little reality check, broadening your world a little bit, like what else would you point to as like, this is what helped me either like bide the time so that things could, the clouds could pass, or things that you did to kind of take ownership, take agency, and like make the situation better for yourself. Like, what do you recall?
Yeah. Well, I think, you show up on campus and it's like literally a football coach picked me up at the airport. We went straight to the football facility and it was like, height and weight and here's your helmet and we're practicing tomorrow. You dive into football and then it's like, oh yeah, we got class too. It's just such an adjustment and away from home and all that stuff. And I think got through the season, got through Christmas, got into second semester, not playing football, not the season, just working out for a couple hours a day. Yeah, you kind of get to catch your breath a little bit, do some thinking. You've got you kind of have time to develop like friendships. You're with guys, you're playing football, but it was like class, football, study, bed. You're just going. It's obviously a little bit more relaxed. Your schedule's a little bit more relaxed in the off season. And then you just kind of get to settle in. And then it was like, okay, I think and then you finish that first year. It's like, okay, I did it once. I know I can do it again. I know next year is going to be better because I know where the lecture halls are.
Right.
I'm not going to be a freshman next year. I'll get to beat on some freshmen in practice. And, so I think it was that, but definitely, it's like, you got to get through the first year. I've had kids in college and it's like, oh, I don't know, I don't know if I like this. I'm like, you got to give it a year, you'll give it a year, go back for the second year. And that's actually proven to be true with two of my daughters that are in college now. First year, a little rocky. I'm like, hey, it's supposed to be. Yeah. This is totally natural. Yeah. Everything you're feeling, it's totally natural. You got to trust me. You're going to be okay. You just can't quit.
I think that's such a great reminder of in this world, particularly in social media and just in the culture, there's so much that is romanticized and shown this idyllic, that freshman year of college should be all parties and instant best friendships and
the drone shots of college campuses. Like, look at all these happy people.
Yeah. And to like normalize like difficulty, discomfort, like that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It doesn't mean you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And when I think about resilience, in young people who just haven't had a lot of life to live yet, and that's not their fault. It's just the reality of only being 18 or 19 or whatever, and kind of living a bubbled life maybe with mom and dad, right there to pick them up. That just this message of like, hey, like being uncomfortable, being not knocking it out of the park is not a sign that you are in the wrong place and should quit and give up.
I think the other thing that was really helpful was there was 25 other guys who were in the same boat as me. I mean, we come from all over the country. We think I'll be honest, when I left high school, I'm thinking, I'm pretty good at this life thing.
Right. You were hot stuff.
I'm crushing it.
Yeah, everybody's telling me how awesome I am. And then we all showed up and we were like, whoa, we're not as awesome as we thought. And going through, and this is, they talk about football, it's applicable to military, to anything, to a family. When the common suffering, that's, and when you got 25 other guys, it's like, we'd look around and you wouldn't say it in front of the older guys, but we'd be like walking from practice to the freshman dining hall. We're like, I mean, guys, we are not doing well. Like we'd almost have like contests like, did you hear that coach yell at me? Did you see what that guy did to me on that play? Yeah. And just to go through it with other people who are going through the exact same thing. Yeah. That's helpful too.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, a lot of the stuff that we do in this podcast, Matt, is just talk about the integration of all the different parts of the human person that God has given us, right? So mind, body, soul, all working together. When they don't work together, really bad things happen, right? So I want to get to the soul part of it because I think faith relationship with sports can be a tricky one, but a good one. But just sticking with the mind part of it as well. I think, recently the field of sports psychology has just exploded in the past probably 10, 20 years in the Netflix series Quarterback that we watched.
Love that show.
Kirk Cousins.
I'm waiting for linemen. I'm not kidding. I think it would be fast. You guys, nobody knows about linemen. I got to find me a producer.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. Great.
You could be the producer.
Or maybe, if I knew what a producer did.
Oh my gosh. I would watch offensive line. You sign that up. I'll be ready for it. Yeah.
I'm going to try.
Oh man. But a session like Kirk Cousins sitting down with a sports psychologist, which I can't imagine the release of information that he had to sign, by the way, to put Sessions on Netflix. But whatever, that's a separate clinical thing. What helped you just keep your mind right in relationship with sports? You know, your athletes talking a lot of times about not getting too high, not getting too low.
Yeah.
What were your strategies or kind of supports?
Well, I mean, I'd like to say that like I did it right, but I don't think I did. I mean, mind and soul are connected. So, you know, when I got through college and got drafted by Vikings, I'd fallen away from my faith pretty hard in college just because it was like, hey, there's all this other stuff to do, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm good, right? I know all that stuff. I've done it. I'm a good person. Yeah, all this stuff that humans do because we're broken and stupid.
Yep.
So then I got to the Vikings, and I'm like, man, I am really now I'm really crushing it. And I had built an excuse not to go to mass because I'm playing the Bears today. Can't make it, right? I'm busy. I think that kind of quick version of my story is sort of on top, if you will, playing for the Vikings, making a bunch of money. Everybody knew who I was because I'm from here, but on the inside, like I was empty because everything that my whole identity was wrapped up into what I was, you know, not who I was. I forgot who I was. And it was great that I had great support here. I mean, I got great parents and family and friends, but I drifted so far, and then met a young woman who became rather smitten with, and she became my wife, and that helped definitely. And then had our first child. Then it was sort of like, okay, I got to figure things out. And so, don't let me not answer your question, Pat. But the NFL, this is what a lot of people find interesting. The locker room's a very spiritual place.
Yeah.
One, it's like just Christianity is like it's woven into the fabric of football. I don't know why. I think because it's a really hard game, and especially in the NFL, you know, it's violent. There's high highs, there's low lows, there's tons of pressure, and so everybody's searching, right? Even if you're a knucklehead 22-year-old kid who doesn't know anything, your heart is searching. You're searching for what's real, for what's true, and then just having like this strong Christian these roots in the game. You know, every team I played on had a team chaplain who was there all the time. Doors always open. There'd be Bible studies all over the place. And 3 of the 4 head coaches I played for were Catholic. So we had Catholic mass in the hotel, like Saturday night or Sunday morning. So it's probably one of the few places you're like really actually encouraged to grow in your faith, like if you want to. And but that, you know, all that being said, like, you know, I think early on in my career, because my identity was just tied to football, and I mean, offensive lineman, you have a tortured existence as it is. Like there's 70 plays in a game, and like even an average offensive lineman, like you're going to have 60 plays that are fine or good.
Yeah.
And this is average. You know, you'll have 10 that are like, and maybe you have a couple disasters. Well, and so maybe I'd have 5 bad plays in a game, and I would always I wouldn't sleep the night after games because you're just replaying that in your mind. We call it a horror film. Like I keep replaying the horror film in my mind. And I think at first and early in my career, it was more so just because it was like, this was everything to me. You know, what if they cut me and I'm not a football player anymore? Like, oh my gosh. On the back end, you know, it's married and kids and maybe in a little bit better spot spiritually. Then it's more, you just feel badly because you just feel like you're letting your teammates down. Sure. You know, and that really does. There is a really strong bond with football players. So, you know, maybe I will answer your question. Maybe I won't. But when I went to the Ravens in 2009, they had 2 sports psychiatrists on staff, which was the first I'd ever heard about it. And I got to be pretty friendly with them. I mean, sometimes you you eat lunch with them in the cafeteria. Sure. And one of them told me one time that 2/3 of the guys on the team were on some form of sleeping medication. Like guys can't sleep. How important is sleep to the average person, much less to a professional athlete? But that's how stressful and like even tormented athletes are for a bunch of reasons. So yeah, it's really, really hard just because you're young. Yeah, you're kind of dumb. There's all these influences and forces pulling at you, and by the way, yeah, like there's a million people watching you every week. So there's a lot going on. I can't really say that I tried to implore, any specific mental strategies. Like I said, sports psychiatry was more of like kind of after when I was playing. But I don't know, I think it was just like resilience, you're just going to like, just keep going, use it as fuel to try to get better. I guess one time a coach said to me, and this, maybe I'd hang my hat on this. He said, nobody's ever played the perfect game. There've been, the best players, nobody's ever played a perfect game. So even though you kind of like in your mind, you're sort of chasing perfection, you do know deep down that it's not attainable. And I don't know, I guess that's maybe the best answer I can give.
Well, it makes sense that the spiritual and the mental go hand in hand, that it's easy to lose track of a little mental stability, a little sense of identity when your faith life isn't rooted deeply.
It was definitely, my kids have heard my story, a million times when I speak about it, but I always say, I'm telling you this so you don't make the same mistakes that I did, right? Because it was just it was quite a wandering through the woods, if you will. And it could have been a lot better, a lot easier if I'd have figured it out sooner. But that's my journey.
Totally.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. And I'm imagining that, most of our audience, probably not D1 or NFL football players. So
you never know.
That's true. That's true. We may have a big, quiet majority out there of newly drafted NFL players listening to This Whole Life. I think for most of us that are in this kind of like 30s, 40s, 50s kind of realm of Catholic Christian life, a lot of it has to do with our kids and navigating sports with them. So, from the athletic side, from the mental, from the spiritual side, just make first kind of brush strokes. What's your take on the current state of youth sports?
This is where it becomes a 5-hour podcast.
Yes, right. I know. Yeah,
five episodes of 5 hours. Totally broken. It's like a race to nowhere, I think.
What about it? I have my own ideas and I'll be happy to share them with you, but can you tell me like what about it is broken? What feels different maybe than a time when youth sports was serving a greater purpose?
Yeah, well, I think you always look at like, okay, well, how's it supposed to work? Like that's kind of you step. How's it supposed to work? And sports are play, right? So play is supposed to be fun and joyful, and there's these great benefits to it, mind, body, and soul. It's all connected. Like I said, I tell my kids, I'm like all the time, and they're like, I'm become the old guy now. I'm almost 50. And they're like, Dad, roll your eyes. But like, man, when I was a kid, like I say it was St. Paul in the 80s, it was like peak America because we just play.
Yeah.
And like nobody cared. There were no travel teams, maybe an all-star team here or there, but I'd play for my school. I'd play for the rec center. We'd get a T-shirt, right? Like that's what you get a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Now it's like you're getting the full uniform, the warm-up suits, the shooter shirts. I mean, I don't even know what all this stuff is.
Yeah.
But it's kind of become like the professionalization of youth sports, where when I played, it was just like, hey, this is good. It's good for kids. Just do your best. And now we're trying to figure out who's the best, right? At like age 6. And so it really, I don't like it. I don't think it's good. I think, kids are missing out, but we're also not like, how's it supposed to work? This is supposed to be for the development of our children. Well, now it's like it's like a 6-year-old baseball. It's like it's a tryout, we're trying to figure out, and kids are, we're placing them. You're good. You're not, you're good. I mean, they're just missing out on opportunities to just be kids and play and have fun and have joy and be with their friends. And then, we talk about all these things that sports are supposed to help develop, well, in this culture where it's like, we got to win, we got to get better. It's like coaches actually have like an agenda. Kids are missing out on all that, and it's just, it's kind of, I think the culture of youth sports is very, very broken.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think too about I was not an athlete growing up. I did not really play sports. I was a rower as a junior and senior in high school. So like cheerleader before that, but rower in upper high school. And what I think about looking at my siblings who are younger and who are more involved in sports was how it brought awesome adults into their life. You know, the mentorship through their coaches, getting to know other teammates, parents, and things like that. And how, like, when you say, like, how is it supposed to work? To me, another aspect is like the communal relationship building. And now in this like dog eat dog, you know, where parents are turning against each other, you know, best friends because my kid got onto the AAAs and didn't make whatever. Like that is, I think, being lost as well, is the value of our children getting to benefit from just a broader support network of adults who care about them, who care about them in this moment, not for what they can produce in the future or like what they can achieve, but like, I love you because you are good and you are here and you're making this effort and you want to be here. So I think that's an aspect too that I've reflected on as our oldest son is 12. So like just getting into he's on his first travel baseball team, like just getting into this world of sports and playing Catholic Athletic Association stuff. So these are the things that I'm like reflecting on of like what, if we're going to put our money, our time, you know, our energy into this, like what is it that I want to be seeing in his life?
And you brought up, that's really important because now I think somebody said, hey, you know, there's some money to be made here, right?
Yeah,
and so, they kind of cracked the door open to travel teams and off-season training and all this stuff. And one, I think parenting now has become sort of a competitive sport, if you will, for a lot of people. And they think that like somehow if your kid's a good baseball player, that reflects on you as a parent, you know, so it's social media, whatever. But now to be in sports as a parent, you're investing a lot of time and money, what you just said. And so it's harder to just kind of sit back and enjoy it. You're almost like, hey, you know,
I want something for my
$1,000. Like, why is my kid out there picking dandelions? You know, why is he
warming the bench?
Right. And so as a parent, you're kind of thinking though, like, hey, when I play, I mean, my parents came to all my games, but we'd have like one game a week. And I just remember, and they were busy like working, like trying to put food on the table. Yeah. You know, and now it's just like parents are so invested and they're so involved in their kids' childhood, like maybe too much so. And I'm speaking to myself too. A little bit. But it's not like, I mean, to your point, it's like we're kind of stuck. We're stuck in this space where, well, if you want you want to do right by your kids, you want to give them all the opportunities, you kind of have to be in this travel sports AAU world. Because if you don't, I mean, kids probably not gonna be able to play later on, even in high school in a lot of cases, because just the development of our youth athletes is happening so much quicker because they're just doing it so much more. Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, in Minnesota, the great kind of like hilarious example I always come back to is people would talk jokingly, but I don't think it's a joke that like, well, you know, if your kid's not skating by 3, they're never going to make it to the NHL. Like
NHL, the high school team.
Chill out. Yeah, maybe they can't play for Edina because they didn't start skating at 3. Just relax. It's going to be fine. Especially when I was doing youth ministry stuff back in the day, I never quite had the guts, but I was always tempted to just like at the confirmation meeting at the beginning of the fall with all the confirmation parents, just to be like point blank, listen, your kid is not going to get a D1 scholarship.
Yeah.
And if in 4 years it turns out I'm wrong, I'll be thrilled to be wrong. But I want to release you of the pressure to give up everything faith-wise to invest in this dream that statistically is not going to happen.
Right.
You know, it just, but that mentality, I think that investment thing is really interesting, you know.
But here's the thing too. So you used this term a couple times, Matt. You said the professionalization. And I think with that has, like for me, the other word that comes with it is like the commodification, like creating this revenue, you know, producing machine that is youth sports right now. Yeah. And I was saying to a colleague before we started this interview, she's like, oh, what are you guys going to talk about? And I was kind of sharing my ideas of the things I wanted to talk about. And I was saying like this pressure to feel like you've got to get your kid the best equipment, the best coach, the, you know, private coach, to be on the best league, to be in the best, you know, whatever facility. And the cynic in me is like, someone is benefiting from this frenzied, atmosphere that you're creating among the parents of like, well, this season is over, but have you gotten him with that coach so that he can try out next year for the, like, just insane. And if we think about it in the broader culture of how much this parallels what we're seeing in terms of, you talk about competitive parenting in social media, like, is that not the land of comparison? That we are kind of living this. It makes sense then that it's also seeping into the way we're parenting and the way we're parenting around sports. And so if we, the horse I will continue to beat. I know it's dead, but that our values are so important to like be able as parents to name, like, what is the point of putting my kid in sports? Like, what is my hope?
What's the goal?
For doing this? And then can I continue evaluating? Can I give myself the permission to continue assessing? Is it bearing the fruit that I hope it is? Because if not, we will create an anxiety producing machine of meaninglessness.
So
that's
where we're at. I mean, you see, I've been in it a little bit longer than you guys. I have, daughters that played travel volleyball and this and that. And I've so many of my daughters' peers or other parents, their kids, they're in this funnel. They started in 7th grade. They specialized in this one sport, which I'm just saying, I'm not saying you say, I wish kids would play all the sports they can. Unless you're like super just gifted and talented, you can't. Like, you do have to start skating at 3. And like, if you want to play hockey at an average Minnesota high school, you have to be like elite
and only do that.
Yes. You have to do it that way. But where kids have done this, and I had a daughter, she's a pretty good volleyball player. And after her junior season, she's doing all the club stuff. And then she said, I've decided I do not want to play in college. And, so I'm not going to do club, and we're going to play my senior year. And I was like, thank goodness. I'm tired of this travel volleyball thing personally. If anybody out there's in the travel volleyball grinder, you know what I'm talking about.
God bless you.
But so many kids, they self-select out because they're tired of it. And I think that's kind of sad. Like, I tell people, I got paid millions of dollars to play football. I got tired of it. I would take, there were months where we didn't go on the field, you need a break, but we put these kids out there 11, sometimes 12 months a year. Like, of course they're going to get sick of it. And just to me, that's sad, because sports, you only have so long to play sports in your life. And, when you're done, you want to be able to look back and just say, hey, that was awesome. What
a good time.
I think we're just kind of taking that from our kids.
Can I say also, when you describe that situation with your daughter, like, praise God, she had parents who were detached enough from her volleyball career, who weren't like, in behind the scenes, mom to dad, like, okay, we're banking on that D1 or D2 scholarship for her, because that news and really honoring her will in saying, guys, I'm done, I'm hanging up the travel hat, could have been really devastating for you all if you were wrapped up in identity, success, with her around her performance. And again, I feel like now being, like I said, a parent of a 12-year-old boy who loves every sport and is constantly playing something, I can see that allure of like you said earlier, Matt, like, my worth as a parent is wrapped up in how my kid is performing. And so then if they choose to retire, or what have you, I'm crushed. I'm devastated. To have that healthy sense of detachment, it's work.
Yeah. Well, like, our society, we put way too much value on hand-eye coordination. Like, we love, I mean, it's like, it does, people say professional athlete. First of all, I wasn't a professional athlete. I was a lineman. Okay. Nobody chooses to be a lineman. It kind of chooses you. But I think growing up and not being, that prodigy or whatever, like, I know, like, I lost more games than I won, got beat a lot of times, like, one-on-one, like, I'm okay with it. So, like, when I see my kids out there, of course I want them to do well. And sometimes I get a little wrapped up. But most of the time, like, this is it. This is sports. You win, you lose. Like, in the NFL, we used to say, hey, that guy, he gets paid too. That guy over there, like, he's going to make some plays.
Right.
And it's so good. And I don't know, as parents, we've just forgotten. I don't know what it is, but we've forgotten that, like, little Johnny's going to be okay if they, they get spanked, they lose by 20 points. Johnny's not going to care in 5 minutes. It almost affects the parents more. I don't know. We're really messed up. It's really messed up. I wish, we just kind of I sound like the old guy saying, get off my lawn, but
Right.
kind of go back where it's like rec centers and, you know, parents, maybe we should play games at like in the summer at like noon, you know, when
Yeah, sure.
most parents are at work.
Totally. Right.
Like keep the parents out of it. Just
Nobody
let the
yelling
kids
at
show
the
up
umps
and
at
play.
noon.
Yeah.
Well, it made me think of, there was a mental image that immediately came to mind when you were talking about parents being maybe a little bit overly invested in their kids' childhood. Jonathan Haidt talks about that a lot, by the way, in a book called The Anxious Generation, about how parents are just like hovering over every little aspect of their kids' lives, and that traditionally what kids need to grow up healthy is not their parent involved in every minute of their day.
Yeah.
A great parent knows when to just let them go play with other kids and go be a child, you know. But there was a time, maybe last year or the year before, one of our boys was playing tackle football for the very first time. It was great. He was having fun. Was not the best player on the field. Definitely not the worst. Just having a ton of fun.
Perfect.
And there were so many parents. And we have all these kids. What are we going to do? Drop them off? I'll see you in 2 hours, buddy. See you later. And just, God bless them, dozens of parents with the folding chair watching every minute of a practice.
Pat, I coach middle school football.
You know this
a lot
story?
Of those parents and a lot of them they're coming up to me telling me, hey, you know what you should do? I'm
Come
like,
on.
listen, I'm pretty sure I know what we should do, okay? My goal here in middle school is to get your kid so he likes it and he plays in high school. Because I want to put in a plug for football here. Because in football, I'm not saying it's not everybody's cup of tea, and I get it. But in this broken culture that we're talking about, like the great thing about football is there's a place for everybody. You know, big, little, tall, short, whatever. Like every skill set is needed. And as long as you're not completely averse to some contact, like you can play football. And football teams, they don't cut. It's like the price of admission is you got to work. You know, football's going to hurt a little bit, but you pay the price. And so I think that's so good for kids these days, like to get roughed up a little bit. And, you know, I heard Steve Young say this once. He's like, the great thing about football is we have all these metaphors in life. In football, like that really happens. Like you do get knocked down, you got to get back up. Sometimes you do drop the ball. And I think, you know, generally speaking, high school football coaches, it's like if you coach high school football, this is why I don't, it's a full-time job that gets in the way of your full-time job. And you're spending all this time with other people's kids. Like most high school, and I've done a lot of work in high school football across the country. Like those guys, that's their mission. You know, that's their ministry is coaching high school football. And so you talk about adults caring about kids, like high school football coaches. If you want to be a great coach, those kids got to know you care about them because you're asking them to go beyond what they think you can do. This is going to hurt, and you're going to willingly do it. So you can't play travel football. They're trying to screw it up a little bit, but they're never going to be able to do it. You can't play football year round, and you don't have to start. I started playing in 10th grade. A lot of people don't start playing. They get kicked out of these other sports because they're not a great hockey player or a great soccer player. It's like, I'll get I play football, right? And so I want to put a plug in there for football because I get a lot of people asking me, well, he's never played before. I'm like, great. He's got no bad habits. He's got no scar tissue. Get him out there. They'll find a place for him and let him find his way. So it's kind of the last thing that's somewhat pure from that standpoint. You don't have to have a quarterback's coach when you're 5.
Right. Seriously. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's someone out there with tell me I should buy one. But hey, gentlemen, I got to go pick up a reschooler. This is real life, listeners.
Real life. It's happening
Friday afternoon.
Your very ears. That's right.
Lest I'm late, we have a serious date with reading a Beauty and the Beast book. So I am going to go. Matt, thank you so much.
Have fun with the preschooler.
Thank you. Bye, babe. I'll see you later.
Bye, babe. See you in a bit. So Matt, as a parent of athletes, as a middle school football coach, with the system the way it is, with youth sports culture being what it is, what are some like habits, kind of like best practices for parents to give their kids the best chance in the current culture that we have?
Yeah, I think you really have to go out of your way and make sure that your kid's having fun. And listen, I mean, I don't think anybody has bad intentions or bad person, but if you're coaching a team, it's just kind of this culture. Like you sort of feel like as a coach, like, oh, we got to win, So really just go out of your way. Make sure your kid's having a good time. Make sure you encourage them. I'll say a lot of like, let me say sort of like unprofessional coaches, maybe, youth coaches, volunteers. And maybe they think that like, well, let me just go back a little bit further. A lot of times you coach kids how you've been coached.
Sure.
There's a great, if anybody's looking at it, a guy named Joe Ehrmann, Ehrmann. Joe played for the Baltimore Colts way back in the day. Joe has probably done the best work on this. It's called Inside Out Coaching. Joe's story is amazing, and the work he's done around coaching is amazing. But he talks about you coach the way you were coached, And so
Which sounds a lot like parenting, by the way.
Yeah.
People tend to parent the way they were parented.
Right. That's kind of your default, right? Unless you really are thoughtful about it and really figure out why you're doing it. And so, like Joe asked himself, or says, coaches, ask yourself, what does it feel like to be coached by me? Think about that. I think most people, it's kind of generational. Most people were coached. You're told, when you screwed up, like, hey, do this better. And with the pressure, if you will, I think a lot of kids are probably overcoached, overcorrected. Come on, Billy, you got to do this, right? You really got to make sure my whole thing, number one after a game, did you have fun? Even there in high school, hey, did you have fun? Like, you're supposed to be fun. And you lost by 20. Did you have fun? Dude, I saw you out there. I saw that one play. That was awesome. Like, kind of be the energy bus. And then I try to talk as little as possible about it with my kids, unless they bring it up. Sure. And then it's just, I'm just kind of, oh yeah, that's great. I don't try to get in there and, I got kids that play football, I don't really try to coach them. I like training with them, I'll give them training tips, but I don't really try to coach them. But I just want to make sure, I think to break it down into simplest terms, if a young kid is having fun and if he feels like he or she is getting better, that's all that's it. Don't try to do any more than that. He or she does not care about wins and losses. If I'm talking to some younger parents out there, your kids are coming up through, they don't care about wins and losses. They really don't, especially when they're little, like just bring the treat, take them to Dairy Queen. Like that's the most important thing. But even when they get older, that's it. If they feel like, because they're working hard, they see improvement and and people think, well, they got to win to enjoy it. No, they don't. No, they don't. Again, that's over parenting. And I always look at it as a journey, when my kids, it's like I hate to say it, it's like an athletic journey, I say, when they're done playing sports, which most likely will be when they're done with high school. Like you said, the odds are, that you play in college is like 1 or 2% max. So I want them, it's a journey. You can be watching a game and sometimes it's your kids, for whatever reason, they're not playing well, the refs are terrible. The other coach is yelling and you can kind of get like,
totally.
This is one game in the course of like 1 million for your kid and their athletic journey. Just relax. Relax.
I love that. And that's a great point, I think, just to help train kids in about life in general, that far be it from me as a parent to raise children who are only joyful when things are going well. So like separating the joy from the win, like separating the fun of the game from wins and losses. Like you can have a great time in a loss. And like it sucks to lose. I'm not in this to lose. Like a competitive spirit is great. I want to win every game. That's fine. But it doesn't mean that my life is miserable if things aren't going perfectly. And then translate that to like a bad grade in college. You get let go from your first job. You go through a breakup. Like
your girlfriend breaks up with you.
Yeah, totally. Right. And like, you can feel the pain of that, and you should. That you don't have to ignore reality, but just not being devastated by every little setback. I mean, that's what a great kind of like life skill. You know?
Well, I mean, it's spiritual. You run to win the race, right? Like that's what you're supposed to do. And that's why I think there's a great opportunity. And I've worked on a program with Cisco called 4HG, for His Glory, where you're trying to infuse, keep Christ at the center of athletics and really say like, hey, God gave you these gifts. Like your only job is to go out there and try as hard as you can, use your gifts, right? Because that's like, they say God blessed you. That's your way to like give back to God.
Right.
Chariots of Fire, the great
Yeah.
running movie. And the guy said something it was like, God made me fast. He likes it when I run fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's your job, man. And it's just so precious, like to have these moments to be able to play and be on a team and compete. And especially when you can do it for your school, like
Yeah.
you wear a uniform with your school's name on it, you're
Totally.
representing something bigger than yourself. All these things we talk about, that the good that sports can be, it's like, yeah, we're missing it in a lot of places because
Yeah.
we're worried
Yeah.
about getting the college scholarship.
Yeah. Right.
That's a shame.
Final question, I think, that's coming to mind is on the flip side of the coin then. So if there are parents out there who are totally hesitant to even get their kids involved in sports because they can see all the stuff from a distance that's broken, right? They see the parents screaming at the umps. They see how expensive it is. They see kids that are totally dejected and getting berated by parents at the end of a game. What encouragement would you give parents to give it a shot? Like what are the benefits of youth sports, and why is it worth it to just try something and see how it goes?
Well, I think you do need to look at it as, hey, this is a tool for development, depending on what age and what level. But I mean, obviously physical, emotional, even spiritual. It's good for kids to be with their friends. Kids today, they don't go outside and play as much as we did. They need that. And depending on the age, and it's fine to go up to the coach, because coaches, they're just volunteers. They're just parents, and be like, hey, coach, I'm Matt. I just want you to know, one, thank you. Thanks for taking the time to do this. Two, I'm not worried about my kid being a professional, this or that. I just want him to have fun. Like, I think coaches sometimes feel this imaginary pressure.
Yeah.
Like, I got to act like I'm, I don't know, Chris Fitch. I got to act like I'm a professional coach. It's
right.
like,
right. Yep.
Like give the coach some reassurance, like, hey, we're good, or do you need any help? And just, try to help create the culture on your team. Don't dive into the travel thing. Although we've had great experiences on some travel teams as well. I look back at my own career, and a lot of it too is it's just chance. As a kid, I had good coaches.
Yeah.
I had some terrible coaches too. It's not like it's just exclusive to this day and age. But I was very fortunate to have a great coach in high school, a great coach in college, and some great coaches in the NFL. And that's why I was, able to do it. The other thing that I want to talk to the parents out there who are into it, the ones that come up to me like, hey, my kid wants to play D1 football.
Yeah. Right.
Let me tell you something about college and pro sports. One, I'm not sure you do want your kid playing college sports. It's not all it's cracked up to be.
Well, especially now between like portal and NIL and like, holy cow, what a circus.
Even that, but you got to understand, and when I played, high school is just high school. You get to college, it's a business.
Yeah.
Now high school has kind of become that a little bit in some places, but college is a business. If you don't play well and that coach gets fired, he's got to go find another job. He's got to move his family, pull his kids out of school. It's not the healthiest environment.
Yeah.
I mean, for a lot of reasons. And then you get to the NFL or pros, and nobody cares how you're doing.
Totally.
How are you feeling? Are you having fun? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
You are paid to do a job. I tell parents this, look, 90% of what will determine if your kid goes to college, if that's your thing, it's just genetics.
Yeah.
It's just genetics, man. I mean, you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And so then the 10% of people that have the genetics to do it, the top 10% of them, they go on, and that's based on work ethic. And,
Totally.
But like, if your kid's not outside, shooting hoops like every day, if you got a hoop and they're not using it, your kid doesn't love basketball.
Yeah.
Either they don't love basketball, which is 100% fine.
Yeah.
Or you got them practicing basketball too much because you got them on 3 travel teams and a shooting coach, like to become, an elite athlete, you need to have, 1, the talent, and then 2, you just need to love, I call it the lonely work.
Yeah.
Like the process, the training. I mean, I'm an lineman. Nobody cares. I get it. But the reason why I loved lifting weights, God made me strong. He likes it when I lift heavy things.
Yeah, right.
You never once had to tell me, hey, you got to go lift weights. I loved eating food.
Yep.
Okay. Like those two things in and of itself. I loved the process of being, it wasn't a means to an end for me. It wasn't like I'm lifting weights because I want to get a college scholarship. It was like, no, I just love lifting weights. And so, the young person, the boy or the girl, they have to just love that process, that the practice, the lonely work when you're not telling them, when you're not driving them to practice, when they're just doing it on their own, then that means they really like it.
Yeah.
And that's what'll make them successful. So it doesn't say anything about your character if you love basketball or not, or football or lacrosse.
Right.
Like just,
yes.
you know what? Like let your kid be a kid. Let them try as many things as possible.
Yeah.
Try to find their thing, and everybody finds their place.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's so good.
That's my rant.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
like
therapeutic.
I said, we could do 5 more hours on this, but I assume that you have things to do. You probably have kids that are waiting for you to drive them to practice later on tonight.
Yeah.
So
that's true. I'm in the world too, man.
Oh my gosh. So we always like to end up with, wrap up with some kind of a challenge by choice, something that's like actionable, practical for folks out there. What's something that you would offer to maybe parents or folks kind of navigating sports in their own life? Yeah,
well, I would say this. So, our kids we're always, everybody's being assessed all the time. I mean, from the moment you're born, you're being assessed. They take your vitals and school and sports, and like go out there and I'd say, just play catch with your kid or shoot baskets with her or whatever. And don't judge. Don't be like, don't try to correct them.
Yeah.
Thinking like, hey, we're out here because I got to get Johnny's fastball better. Just enjoy that moment of playing catch or shooting hoops or whatever with your kid. And this is what I try to do for myself too. Because listen, I'm the most competitive guy, Yeah. I mean, I really am. But and I remind myself with kids when we're doing sports things, we're just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
This isn't a practice session.
Yeah.
We're not, I'm not their coach. But just enjoy that moment. And I remember when I was growing up, my dad, he was a baseball guy, and I can remember so many times playing catch in the front yard with him, throwing the baseball. And those are my best memories. As a kid, my best time with my dad. I think it's like parents, we forget that, and you kids, you're not going to play catch with them forever.
Yeah.
And they don't want you to, because when you're telling your kid, hey, do it this way, that's not always, I know you mean well, but that's not always being received. To them, they might be hearing, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
My dad, my mom doesn't think I'm good enough.
Like criticism. So,
10 minutes, do something athletic with your kid just to do it. And don't judge them. Don't coach them. Just do that.
That's so good. I love that. I'm going to try to do that tonight. Thank you for
I am
that.
too.
That's very helpful.
I'm going to take my own advice and actually try it.
Yeah. Well, Matt, why don't we wrap up in prayer, and then we'll send folks on their way to get out there and do this stuff, man.
Great.
Sound good?
Yeah.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. Lord Jesus, we thank you so much for all your amazing and generous gifts. Thank you for creating each of us, for loving us, for saving us. Thank you for giving us, Lord, these bodies and minds and souls to honor you and to serve you with our efforts, with our prayers, with our worship, and with all that we do. And we pray in a particular way, Lord, for all athletes today, for their health, for their well-being, for their sense of self and their connection to you. We pray for all parents out there, Lord, who are navigating sports for their own children. We pray for a keen sense of trust and humility, a keen sense of our identity and our children's identity that can be rooted in you and you alone, and not in any particular activity. Saint Sebastian, please pray for us. Help us to serve our Lord as faithfully as you did. And Jesus, we ask all this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Matt Birk, what a joy, man. Thanks so much for being here. This is super fun. Yeah, thanks for being here, man. You can catch up with Matt Birk on his website. We'll put a link in the show notes, and you can track some of the good stuff that he's doing out there in the community. Again, encouragement to rate and review This Whole Life. You can follow us online at thiswholelifepodcast.com, on Facebook or Instagram at This Whole Life Podcast. And until next time, get out there, have a catch, and we'll see you next time.
You're not alone.
This Whole Life is a production of the Martin Center for Integration. Visit us online at thiswholelifepodcast.com.
You're not alone, you're not alone.
Your best 30 seconds on Donovan Jackson so I can get a sound check.
Yeah, I have no idea who Donovan Jackson is, but I think he was the best player on the board. Didn't necessarily draft for need.
Right.
Blah, 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 blah.
Did you not watch the draft?
You're in favor of linemen getting drafted early, though,
I'm
right?
absolutely in favor of linemen.
Yeah.